We now cross over to our reporter, Lemogang Foke, who's out in Mbombela. Lemogang, a warm welcome to you. Now, an interesting turn of events this past weekend politically in the place of the rising sun. Cyril Ramaphosa's campaign trail, can you just take us through it?
A very good afternoon to you, Mfundo, and thank you very much indeed. As you have indicated, we are coming live from Mbombela in Mpumalanga, and just coming from Limpopo, where Cyril Ramaphosa concluded his campaign trail, and of course making that announcement of his official slate. And so for now, we still keep those reactions coming. I have with me the SACP provincial chairperson, Lucky Mbuyane, just to unpack his thoughts on where they stand as the SACP in the province regarding this new announcement. Thank you so much, Ntate Mbuyane, for joining us. What do you make of Cyril Ramaphosa announcing his slate, and what does that say about the ANC in the province? How would that, the SACP, in the province, and how would that be imposing on the branches?
Thank you very much, Lemogang. And I want to thank the ANC for giving us this platform to come and articulate our position as a South African Communist Party in Mpumalanga province. We hear many people speak about what Comrade Cyril said in Limpopo, but we must indicate that we are a South African Communist Party, we are an alliance partner of the African National Congress. We are not a subcommittee of a branch of the ANC. So in some other issues that have got to do with the ANC conference, as the party, we are not going to comment to, we will rather speak about the traditions as a matter of principle in the whole processes of the ANC. Because what Cyril have said in Limpopo, others are saying it is his democratic right to say what he said. Others are saying a number of things. But as the party, we just want to speak from the principle of saying the ANC, historically since 1949, we saw deputy presidents become presidents of the ANC. So also in this case, we think that the ANC have got to follow that tradition, especially if the ANC want to unite itself. It must follow the matter of tradition, so as the conference is concluded correctly. But further than that, Lemogang, I think all what you can say is that there are many pronouncements in the ANC which are wrong. And we think the conference that is going to sit in December must be able to sit down and look all those foreign tendencies, the slates, the money politics, factionalism, patronage. We think that the conference in December will be very much relevant to sit down and look as to say how best can we practically resolve all of these problems. Because now we're hearing rhetorics. A person will say this, the following day is doing the other thing. Other structures, the Women's League, the Youth League will pronounce, MK veterans will pronounce, the president himself will go and find himself deep into factions of the ANC. So we think the ANC as an organization must go to the conference and come up with a practical solution that is going to take the ANC forward.
Well, thank you very much. That was Lucky Mbuyane, who's the chairperson of the SACP in the Mpumalanga province. I will now move on to my second analyst. His name is Mbuso Tumbati from Nombuso Communications Group. Mbuso, thank you so much for speaking to us. It always is a pleasure to speak to you. But let's just unpack what is currently happening now. And also, specifically talking about where this puts David Mabuza. We do know that coming out of Mpumalanga, there were some prospects of having him as a deputy president. But now Cyril Ramaphosa announcing his preferred slate without Mabuza. How do you make of those turnouts?
Well, Lemogang, obviously people will be shaken by this move. They saw an opportunity for Mabuza to emerge as deputy president on either the NDZ faction or that of Cyril Ramaphosa, the CR17. Now, given what has happened, the latest development that happened in Limpopo, it leaves Mabuza with only one person, one faction, that of NDZ, Laminism. So this is a big challenge for Mpumalanga ANC, a big challenge for Mabuza himself. He's interested in being a deputy president. He's interested in having the province rallying behind him. However, it is not guaranteed that all structures of the ANC, or delegates rather, going to the conference in Nasrec, will indeed make sure that his preferred, in this case, the Laminism faction, will emerge, or they will vote for that faction.
Now, the ANC have also spoken out against candidates releasing names such as what we've seen with Cyril Ramaphosa. But do you think that this is him imposing himself on branches, or is it mere lobbying at this point? I mean, I suppose anything can happen just weeks before the conference, but what do we make of it?
Well, from where I'm sitting as an analyst, as a person, as a scholar, there is surely nothing wrong about a politician, particularly in this current juncture. The campaigning trail has been opened. People are going, visiting various regions, various provinces of the country, lobbying, meeting behind closed doors, and publicly engaging masses to lobby their support. Surely this of Ramaphosa is one of those. He's just used a different tactic. President Zuma, prior to emerging as the president of the country and the president of the ANC, he used a different one. Of course, he used emotional blackmail. He would use different ways of engaging people to support him. However, those of us were able to see that the president wants to ascend to the highest position in the ANC. Ramaphosa openly came out clean, saying, look, I am here, I want to serve you, I am your man. And I would love to work with people who will champion your interests. Therefore, he was able to name those people so that people do understand what the team of Ramaphosa will comprise of.
And just lastly, Buso, if you can just briefly give us your comment on, what this means for Ramaphosa's campaign, bringing in Naledi Pandor as a deputy president. What do you think his chances lie?
Well, Naledi Pandor, as a person, as a comrade, he's very seasoned. He understands the ANC. She's a professional. She's somebody who's been there, who served in various portfolios of the ANC and various portfolios in government. However, there are challenges. Remember that conferences are about numbers. But I can assure you that Naledi has a following. She has people who believe in her. She's a credible comrade. She's a very solid individual, very professional. She has chances to bolster and embrace a huge following that will assist Ramaphosa's campaign.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Mfunda, unfortunately, I'm going to have to toss back to you. And those are the views that are coming from Mpumalanga based on Ramaphosa's winning team and the announcement that he made yesterday in Limpopo in Sekhukhune. Back to you.
No, thank you very much, Lemogang. Now, we're joined in studio today for this very conversation by Dr. Lagi Mathebula, a policy analyst from Tshwane Think Foundation. We're also joined by socio-political analyst Oliver Dixon. Panel, or at least for you now, welcome, Dr. Mathebula.
Dumela, how are you?
I'm great. Now, we would say that this is the biggest news to come out of the weekend, the official slate by Cyril Ramaphosa. But what do you make of the inclusion of Naledi Pandor as for the deputy president position?
Look, I think the contest between Cyril and Nkosazana Zuma obliges him to also speak to the women in the ANC. I think that's my first comment on that. But also, I think by pulling in Naledi Pandor, who is a seasoned leader of the ANC, Cyril is also talking to the stalwarts, to the old people in the ANC, to the people that were in exile, that they're also part of the future with him. But over and above that, I think he's also trying to water down the tsunami cohort. Because remember, he is still seen as a person that is still relying on those people that were actually responsible for putting President Zuma in Polokwane earlier on to be who he is. And those people are found in his team. So in his core team, what he has done now, I think he has only left Gwede Mantashe from that tsunami cohort.
But some could then still say that if we had to take it to what was happening in Parliament, Naledi Pandor was one of those members as well who defended the president. So if you're talking about perhaps distancing yourself from Zuma or those who defended Zuma in Parliament, she spoke. Unless you're going to confine it and say she's a disciplined member, she was critical behind closed doors. But when it came to a time of somehow coming together publicly, she would then somehow come and unite behind the president.
Naledi is a seasoned politician. And she's very intellectual. So she might have reasoned when she voted with Jacob Zuma in Parliament, the correctness of doing that at that time. And she might have also reasoned the correctness of agreeing to be on Zuma's slate. But I think what we need to read out of Naledi Pandor is that as a woman, she's a different politician. I think she's made of a different silk. However, she needs to manage that as a woman, she's not used to actually garner the support of the Women's League. She's genuinely put there because of her qualities and what she can contribute to the civil team.
Now that is the key question, perhaps to bring in Oliver, they welcome. Oliver, she has no constituency. That's what everybody's been saying this past Sunday. So what does it mean? Is Ramaphosa trying to put forward a credible slate, but possibly going to lose at the end of this because she doesn't come with numbers?
Quite importantly, we have to ask ourselves the question about, just because Cyril Ramaphosa is not a dumb politician, very smart politician. So is Naledi Pandor and a number of people in that slate. And when you put together a slate, you often put together a slate that will consolidate branch level support for you. Naledi Pandor has very little such branch level support. Compare that to, for instance, Premier
David Mabuza.
David Mabuza.
Who many could have said he could have wooed.
Yeah, right. Who has incredible support in Mpumalanga. Compare that, for instance, to what's happening with Ace in the Free State, him having incredible branch level support over there. So we have to ask ourselves, why would Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa put someone on his slate who has very little branch level support but has the right posture for a national appeal? Right? And this is, I think, lends a lot towards the reconciliation process that they call themselves in the ANC about driving unity. Right? So while Naledi Pandor may not be able to consolidate branch level support, what she has in the organization is immense credibility.
She's not factional.
She's not factional,
Well,
but credibility that indicates a level of attempt to want to bring about unity. So she strikes me as the sort of politician that can sit with both sides and really deliberate the direction of the organization.
Now,
and that shows a level of serious. So perhaps Cyril Ramaphosa cares more about uniting the ANC than he actually cares about winning a conference.
So what about those that believe in him, Oliver? That those that believe in him and want to see him become president of even South Africa? They have a problem now that he's not playing the game right as it should be played. Because here, Naledi Pandor by some is seen as great for government, that she would work for 2019, but is she great for the party? That can they really, is she somebody that is charismatic? As you say, she doesn't have that branch support. So to get past winning in the ANC, is she still the right person?
This is largely speculative. We're going to have to speculate a lot of here because we have very little information just about who she's been speaking to, what she's been saying to them, and why Cyril Ramaphosa thought he is a perfect fit to deputize. Right? So we're going to have to wait for her to actually come about and say something, whether or not what her plans are in terms of supporting this particular slate. Similarly, how we're waiting for Paul Mashatile to come up forth and give us exactly the same sort of assurance that he's definitely serious about this, because we don't want a situation where people withdraw on the last day, on the day of voting at the conference, like we saw Tokyo Sukhale do in the last elective conference in Mangaung.
No, certainly worth a broader conversation. I also want to touch on the age here. I know she's 63 and we've got Nkosazana who's 68, but let's quickly just move to KZN. We'll be back in that conversation. Now, tensions over nominations continue to escalate in KwaZulu-Natal ANC structures. Some members claim the process is being rigged for particular outcomes. The legitimacy of ANC presidential candidate Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's Durban branch is under scrutiny. Now, this comes after allegations that it was disbanded for not endorsing her. However, sources say the branch had been disbanded before the nominations process even started. There are also claims of a branch secretary who was removed from his post for backing Cyril Ramaphosa. Meanwhile, the claims of vote rigging raise several questions about the transparency of the process and whether branches can accept democratic outcomes.
50+1 of members must be present in the meeting, but this is not happening. In many of these branches, we have lodged grievances with the Electoral Commission and the Office of the Secretary General, as it were. The guidelines further instruct that the BGMs will be supervised by members of Parliament, members of the provincial legislature, and members of the National Executive Committee. But this is not happening. Instead, Youth League and other people who do not belong to any structures preside. It is not surprising that the illegitimate PEC stripped some regions, including the Lower South Coast, of its political powers to manipulate conference processes. We have had 3 weeks of branch nominations in the province, and we are delighted of the positive outcome, especially in the regions like Far North, Abatulusi, Inkosi Pambata, and Emalahleni. It must be noted, though, that in regions like eThekwini, Moses Mabhida, and Herigwala, we have seen unprecedented acts of hooliganism and outright fraud in the branch general meetings, where members with valid membership are removed from the roll of members.
We now cross over to our reporter Nomusa Pumula, who's out in KZN. Nomusa, warm welcome to you. Now, we've been reporting on Ward 32 for a while now. Supposedly, the branch members say they've been victimized for preferring Cyril Ramaphosa. What exactly is happening there?
Well, good evening, Fundo, and good evening to our viewers. Ward 32, which is the ward for Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, where she is affiliated at, has been reported to be operating on a parallel structure. There are those that belong to the structure that was disbanded last year in December, according to the regional secretary, as well as the task team that was appointed by the region to further or to make sure that things run smoothly within the branch, and also make sure that it takes the branch to the next AGM where they can elect a proper and legitimate structure. However, there has been problems between these two structures, or the three structures rather, which is the task team, the REC, as well as the disbanded BEC, where you see the disbanded BEC calling meetings for a number of times without the knowledge of the REC, where the REC have said that they've reprimanded them a number of times. However, they continuously do that, confusing members of that branch. They've also mentioned that they've taken the matter up to the REC, up to the PEC rather, so that the PEC can give guidance as to what exactly should be done with Ward 32, because now there are those few, according to the regional secretary Begintuli, that belong to the BEC that is disbanded, that were disbanded based on issues that they were being rebellious, they were not following processes of the ANC, and also they were being unruly. He cited 3 incidents that took place last year in 2016 already, where he says the campaigns had not started, but already this branch was becoming unruly, where they went to the branch to campaign for local government elections. However, they were disrupted by these a few BEC members that were there at the time. At some point, they even destroyed the banner of the African National Congress, which is the property of the ANC. But right now the matter is in the hands of the PEC, where the PEC will then decide as to what should really happen with Ward 32.
Musa, thank you very much. We'll speak as days progress. Now, back to the studio. Doctor, your take again, just to take you back to the age thing. A number of people still are concerned that we're seeing a lot of these members of the ANC. You talked about her resonating with the stalwarts and so forth. But if you look at that slate, there's nobody that is young. And we know that South Africa is made up of mostly the youth in this country. So who will be championing the youth's agenda?
Possibly in this group, it might be Paul. Whether he's a youth or what, one is not sure.
He no longer is.
Yeah, but I think this thing of youth in leadership, I think might be overplayed. You need to look at the character of the youth in the ANC and say, have we produced enough youth leadership in the ANC Youth League that can be ready to take over this task?
And whose failure is that? Because good leaders must be working themselves out of positions daily. If you cannot identify somebody that can take over from you, you're a bad leader.
That's why I'm saying that it might be a function of that the leadership of the ANC is realizing that it might have failed to produce a credible youth leadership. I mean, we all know that a full generation of youth has been wiped out in terms of the whole EFF cohort that has gone to the EFF. There's a full generation that has been wiped out. There's a new generation that is coming. Whether it is ready to take on now or what, it's an academic question. But what I want to try and point out on the Nkosazana and Naledi Pando age challenge and the Cyril age challenge. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is that the country where it is, it probably still needs a much more mature person to lead at the president's level and deputy president level. I would agree with you when you say they should have introduced somebody younger, maybe at the level of the secretary. But I see that Cyril has not announced a deputy secretary.
Yes.
I think that might be the space that he probably is looking at putting for a youth there. It's interesting that he did not go to that level. And there's also a debate that the constitution might be amended to increase the number of the top 6 to say top 8, and that might create opportunities for youth. So, and something else that I wanted to comment about, there's still going to be horse trading towards the conference. Cyril's slate might also be amended as the horse trading.
Which is interesting because many were saying he was premature actually to have brought it up. Unfortunately, we've run out of time today. We've had so many interviews, but thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And lastly, here's this week's poll question. The question this week is white monopoly capital a reality in South African economy? You can take part in our survey on our website and social media platforms. Our Twitter account is at ANC7TV. Please, we'd like to hear from you. And that's where we ended today. Until next time.